Hi everyone, so it's Caitlin at Out of Wonder, and let me tell you. So I filmed a video to do a curriculum plan with me, and it was huge. So my camera was like, no more room, and I have a better video, and it'll be less of a mess for you. It'll be better for kind of, I think, more helpful. So let's get started. You'll notice I have all my supplies out, and it's just kind of like getting messy days. So if you teach high school English, hopefully this will be helpful. Or middle school English, I mean, some of this stuff will apply. My plan is to do a series on a bunch of my units and talk about my curriculum and go through things because there's just not a lot of videos like that online, and I think it'd be really helpful for people to have some ideas for brainstorming their year. This is stuff that I feel pretty clear about, but I still have some bugs on my windshield, so to speak. Um, and so a part of this for myself is just to kind of vulnerably go through this process and figure out what things are still a little bit unclear, what things need some work, and just wrap my head around the creation process of creating a curriculum. So if you are at a bigger school, you might have your curriculum kind of given to you. You may not. If you're at a smaller school, very rarely is there curriculum there for English. And I think there's a lot of misconception about how easy it is to grab a book and create curriculum for English, like grab a textbook from administrators. And so my goal is to help give you a guide, especially if you're a new teacher, but also if you're just a teacher looking to revamp your curriculum. So I do a lot of work in PD and on my own. I spend a lot of time, energy, and money on that. It's something that I enjoy, and so I'm really excited to kind of go through some of my plans and then just try to get an overview. So I teach 4 classes, so hopefully you can get a lot of kind of insight into this process. Some people teach 5 or 6 different classes, and if you do, I don't know how you're surviving, because 4 classes is barely sustainable. The only saving grace I have is that my classes are tiny, so grading now will be quicker. Last year I was still figuring everything out with my district, but what I'm going to do today is kind of go through my essential questions that I've created and transfer them over here so I can kind of see topic focus for each class, just so I can get a bigger kind of overview of my first semester. So we don't start for a few weeks, but I know a lot of people are starting, and there's always that back to school period, like a week or half a week, and then you're like, oh yeah, what's happening? And sometimes if you don't know that what's guiding you, it gets real clunky. So the first thing I want to do is just give a shout out for anyone that's helped me collaborate or get ideas. I've gotten a lot of ideas on curriculum from Brave New Teaching podcast, Mud and Ink, and Caffeinated Classroom. So both Amanda and Marie over there, Our Heroes Born or Created, for sure this question came out of that. A lot of the other questions I did kind of create on my own or poll, I guess. I'm trying to think credit wise. I think it's really important to give people credit, so I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I pulled from on here. I mean, this one's just kind of a default Frankenstein unit that gets used a lot. This one I'm using, I'll go through them, but I'm trying to think. Not that I can think of. Just posting in some groups and having people respond, but let's go. Okay, so my first thing I just want to point out is my organization on this. So I teach high school English, I teach sophomores through seniors, and I teach 4 classes every single day. We are not on a block schedule. We are on a 8-period block with a advisory in the morning. I actually really like this schedule, although I think a block schedule would serve our students better, and that they would be less anxious and have an extra day for homework, because many of them work, many of them do childcare at home, many of them are involved in extracurriculars, and a lot of them are still severely struggling and under levels for specifically for reading, but then that expands out to other classes and struggles. So when I talk about my classes, that's the frame I'm coming from, and I think you can still pull things, you can pull ideas, but I know it's easy to judge when you're like, why are they reading that book at this level? And there's specific reasons, and a lot of it comes down to reading level, a lot of it comes down to even, the age maturity of a class or a district, my previous district, the things I'm teaching at sophomore level, there's no way I would be teaching those at a sophomore level at that district. I would have been teaching those in a 7th or an 8th grade class, but it works for my students. So I think that's important. There's a lot of judgment in Facebook groups and even in AP groups, like what works for students. So it's hard to be a teacher sometimes with curriculum because there's a lot going on and there's a lot of pressures and a lot of misconceptions, honestly. They're just like myths and misconceptions too. So first class I'm going to look at is my British Lit class. So the question that is our overarching question is, to what extent do someone's choices define their true character? So for me, the biggest thing that came out of here is, as my guide, is this idea of choice. I think sometimes when you have essential questions and you're still trying to design the class, you close off. And so I want to go out. Does that make sense? So I want to go out to all these things about choices and then arrive at the question. But I need the question to build the unit. My AP, I've done a lot of work on this, like concrete work, printing things out. But I still think in my brain framework of figuring out a unit, this will be so helpful. So I'm hoping this will be just as helpful for you. I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to highlight it twice because I don't like that. There we go. So we have choice. Now my units, how would I simplify these? So under that question, to what extent do someone's choices define their true character? The first unit that we look at is, what is the relationship between one's reputation and society's expectations? Like I said before, we're looking at importance of being in earnest as our anchor text. We're also looking at comedy with this. We're looking at the idea of like online, not in dating terms, but like the idea of a online catfish or, deception online, secrecy online, like that anonymous persona. And also this idea of legacy can fall in there. So I think the biggest thing I'm going to pull for my first unit is this concept of reputation. What else did I say? I said I like this. Reputation, society. I'm going to add judgment just because I think it's something that will hit with this group. I've taught them as sophomores, and legacy. So my, it's kind of wild. So my seniors, some of them I've taught all 3 years because some of them were in AP their junior year, and I had them as sophomores. Some of my AP kids, all my AP kids I had last year, and all my sophomores are new beside any students that need to like retake it for credit, which I don't always think that works, but in a few cases I had students that were like not in the class or like left to be homeschooled, that didn't work out, came back, and so I know that it's like the instance of a student in my group. So this first unit here, connecting this now to the idea of choice. So I guess like, what choices do we make that define us, which comes back to my essential question. So when that happens, I like that, right? It's like these sub questions that are under this question to kind of get them there, right? It's scaffolding, it's building. But when you're a new teacher, we don't think of that. And I am going into year 5 teaching at a year off in there. And so, yeah, hopefully that's helpful, right? Like with the process. So the second unit we're looking at, our core text is Frankenstein, and we're doing what is the relationship between monstrosity and humanity. So the biggest thing here, it's a fun unit. They're seniors. Sometimes we need a little like life in October because it's a rough time for me. Specifically, it's right after the anniversary of a huge trauma in my life, was going through a school shooting. It's starting to get darker. It's starting to get cold. Like, I don't like October, and it's fun, and I love spooky season and all those things. But for myself as a teacher, sometimes you have to think about that with curriculum, is like, when are your hard parts, and how can you make them a little bit more fun or easier for yourself, just that are still strong units. So monstrosity and humanity. I'm going to capitalize it. And humanity. Sure, we can get into a ton of different stuff with Frankenstein. But coming down to that choice, I like that. I like it's it's simple, and sometimes you need a simple unit. This is going to be a tougher unit to start with, right? It's more complex. The language is complex. So to get a little breather in there with Frankenstein, and we're doing like an adaptation kind of mix with novel and graphic novel. And then my third unit. So we have Our Heroes Born or Created. And so Marie from Crafting in a Classroom has a lot on this. Amanda too, like Brave New Teaching, they talk about it. So Our Heroes Born or Created. And so this definitely gonna focus on like heroes. Like, what does it mean to be a hero? And I'm trying to, let me pull up my essential questions that I have them in a slideshow that I organized, so that, except it was organized in my schedule order last year. My schedule changed this year. Let's see. Oh, so heroes and legends, which legacy then kind of ties back. So these things, these loop, right? What are the choices? We look at monsters first, and then we look at heroes. And so we have King Arthur. Beowulf is actually how I'm going to start that unit off. So I think, I feel like I have a good vision for this class. I feel like the units are, I feel comfortable with each unit. I've taught them. I've never taught this. We did a film version my first year. Last year I did it with Honors 10, and I'm bringing it back to Britlet to do the full thing to start, because this is I think this class really will be able to handle it very strongly. And well, and get the humor and the sarcasm and the wit and the satire. I think it will be a strong first unit. Challenging, but strong. So I feel good on what this is. Now, what I like to do is do all of this is my goal, and then see, okay, where's there overlap? So that the rest of the stuff can just like leave my brain, right? It's like catharsis. It's like I'm creating it and pulling and leaving stuff from last year, stuff from when I taught at my previous district, stuff from the online mess that I was teaching in person while being filmed and having students be filmed at home. It was just so much. And it's time to just recreate and co-create and start over and do what we do best as teachers, and that is know our students, connect to those families, and create amazing spaces where we can do all that and honor the pain and lean into the supports that we need. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox, but so I'm gonna move over to my English 10, because that's like the next classes in my day that I then teach. So I go here, 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 and then I go back there. That's my day this year, this like school year. So to what extent should those in power be responsible for the actions of those they influence? What extent should those in power be responsible for the actions of those they influence? There is a lot of big words here, and I like it. We look at power and influence and responsibility. I'm going to write them all down. Now, something kind of interesting with this unit is that, or this course, this year-long, semester-long EQ, I think I'll keep, this one I will be able to keep, theirs I'll be able to keep, and I think this one I'll use all year. Because we're going to look at like text, social media in spring. We do power with Julius Caesar, so like, yeah. Influence, I think there's great betrayal, secrecy, trust, friendship, so I'm excited. Power, responsibility, and influence. Now the thing is about this is I keep this for both my classes. Now text-wise we look, I have such different groups. My honors is going to be a group of 14. I know the students, so we have 14 females, 1 male in that class. So very different than like last year, my kind of just demographics and who these students are, and interest. And so that changes my text selection. Now the thing I didn't change, that was a long line, but that's okay, is my essential questions, right? So you can do that to help simplify. Now I wouldn't do that over here because some of my EP students took British Lit, right? Some of them. So these are different classes, but there can be crossover, even if it helps to make it more distinct, or you're like, this is what I need for those honor students to get to an AP level, right? Like, these are choices that we can make. And I really hope if you're in a district where you, like, are able to make these choices, that you're truly able to make these choices, because it is powerful and it takes time, especially as a new teacher. Like, you might be like, what is happening? Like, this has taken me 5 years to get to this point. Like, don't throw this on yourself. Now, what I would say is, like, maybe prioritize this over coloring every inch of your classroom walls, right? Like, or, like this is where there's some weight and meat, at least for myself, because I enjoy this. I guess it would depend, but okay. So power, responsibility, and influence, our first unit, we are looking at Lord of the Flies. It is a modified version I use with my students because of the district I work in, and because of reading levels, things like this. So why is, it's like a full inclusion class as well. I think that's important to talk about so that you understand some of the context, but why is it important to take responsibility for our actions and mistakes? And this should not be highlighted. That was my error. I just wanted like the main EQs. But why is it important to take responsibility for our actions and mistakes? So responsibility and ownership. Now, I have taught this unit under themes of fear. I have taught it under themes of adventure and discovery. I say responsibility and ownership. I've taught it second semester. I've taught it second quarter. I've taught it third quarter. I've never started the year off with this. I think it will work very well. It is an engaging story when you get to some of those descriptions, when you cut through some of the like wild world building, when you get to the character, the relationships, the dynamics, and that plot arc and those end, like the payoff value of the story, if you can get through it pretty quick, and that's why I'm doing a modified kind of play version, I think it packs a punch to get kids into reading. And at the same time, it's so good to talk about like classroom routines and expectations and safety and policies and responsibility and leadership, things that are happening in your classroom at the same time. And when a text can do both of those things and help you, let them help you. And it's taken you 5 years to not push, like I used to do like all the fun stuff away, and that wasn't helping me build those routines, right? And so lean into that. So our second unit is, how does fear influence our decisions, feelings, and behaviors? So 2 is fear. We still have influence, but I have that up here. We do some Bradbury, Poe, Monkey's Paw. I have a lot of like activities. I have like a lot of escape room kind of fun stuff just for informative text in here. It's really, we focus on description, so building out of Lord of the Flies, we get to description. And I am going to dive into like each unit, hopefully in like more of a series, and look at this at like a class level. But right now, I just wanted to show you, like, especially if you're overwhelmed, even if you only have 2 classes, like how to think about these things in total, so then you can start to like make them distinct and create that sense of like clarity for yourself, because then the rest of the trash can go, and stuff that you've done and stuff you're getting rid of, and it just brings more space and ease into your year. So let's see. So our third unit, this is where I might get some judgment. So let me explain first. Is focused on, how does teamwork help people survive? Okay, so 2 things we're looking at here. 2 anchor things, I should say. A lot of times our conversations and students, like, they're going to pull in other stuff, but that deepens and broadens those connections. It's so helpful. And I just realized, I was like, what if this camera is cutting all of this off? It's not. Ooh, okay, good. But so teamwork and survival. So for this one, we are focusing on the Maze Runner. So we look at dystopia, and with it, I've done that under fear. I've done that under dystopia. Like, I've used that book in other ways. Now, my district, the average reading level of a sophomore in this full inclusion class is about 7th grade, 8th grade. So by quarter 2, this text hits perfectly. The age of the protagonist matches up perfectly. They get into it. It's by far been like the most requested text that I've done there. That afterwards I'm like, what did you guys like reading the most? And they love it. And I'll also say a lot of them have, well, not a lot. I will say a percentage have seen the film. Some of them have even read it before in like lit circles. A lot of times they didn't really read it, or a lot of times when they watched it, it's different. Like, there's not huge differences, but so they do get into it. You know, I've seen movies and then I've read the book, right? Does that take away from me actually getting into reading if I've never been a reader? No, it shows them the depth and the interest, you know? And the kids who try to skate through, they can't skate through because the assessments aren't designed around that. So it supports it. I don't know. It works. It works. That's what I'll say. And it works for me. So use what you need for your text, for your whatever. Okay, so let's see. So our AP year-long is how does language shape individual societies and histories? This is kind of a tough one. I guess like language. I'm trying to think what I could pull out for. I don't know if I can. Like, I might have to do language, self, society, history, just to shorten it. Language, self, societies. And I use the word societies because I think it looks at different societies even within America in a way, and I don't know. Haven't thought too much about it. Probably could reflect more. Probably shouldn't overthink too much. Okay. And I'm going to get this show on the road, but to what extent are innovation, imagination, inspiration all needed for a society and the individuals in it to thrive? I'm going to do education and, like, what's a word? I mean, like, imagination, inspiration, and innovation. I think innovation with it, like, that combines it. Innovation brings in this idea of, like, creative insight that I want in this unit. And so I think we'll go with that. So that's going to be, like, transcendentalism, a lot of, like, essays. We do argument, introduction to, like, rhetorical analysis in here. So there's just, like, a lot because that's, like, getting them on that track and then, like, to push them. Our second unit, what is the relationship between freedom and confinement? So we do Gothic texts. We're going to do some Poe. I was going to do Southern Gothic, but I don't think I'll have time for it because we look at rhetoric specifically. We're really focusing on tone. I'm going to focus on diction, word choice, maybe baby step into syntax. We do dig into, like, reasoning and fallacies, and I kind of want to get into, like, cognitive, distortions and things like that too, a little bit with reasoning and argument, because my district, there's kind of a lot of that in the community. And then 3, how does one's background impact their beliefs and experiences of the American dream? So I'm just going to say, like, experiences of American dream. I don't want to just say American dream because it's not that simple, you know? We're almost there. And then the last one, so we have our 10 honors. So 1, how does our perception impact our relationships and reality? So this is definitely perception and relationships to me. We're going to do A Midsummer Night's Dream. Oh, did I say relationships? But also reality. I'm going to do both. I'm going to do all of it. Because I want them to think about multiple things. Because then as they're getting into AP, there's going to be a lot more going on. So I think it's a good step. Midsummer Night's Dream, we start with Shakespeare. And then we're going to be moving into Book Thief. And so we're going to be looking at humanity and injustice, and like cruelty, dehumanization. So it's a pretty heavy unit, but it balances out with doing like Midsummer Night's Dream and then a heavier unit. So I think this will help. It simplifies, and it just is giving me space to then focus on, okay, what's here? And then from here, we can come back to those bigger questions, right? Like I said before, like those sub-questions. Whew. Okay, so stay tuned to more curriculum plan with me, as I really want to do more videos like this. I think there's a need for them. There's not as much out there. If you stuck with me through this whole video, bless your soul. Are you okay? Go drink some water, stretch. Yeah, if you're new here, feel free to subscribe if you want to see more like this. And thanks for watching. Thanks for checking out whatever bits you did check out. And yeah, I like this. This is fun. I think I'm going to do some more kind of shorter, way shorter videos. But this one just took more because there's a lot here. There's 4 courses. But yeah, have a great day, and I will see you y'all later. All right, bye.